Welcome to the Speed Climbing Podcast. This is episode 4, and I'm your host, Josh. I have with us American record holder Emma Hunt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we're gonna talk all things speed climbing. So, Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Good, good. So a little tired now. You just said that you just woke up, so that's actually gonna lead into one of my first questions. What do you do when it's not speed climbing season?
I still speed climb.
Perfect. Are you a
Yeah,
student anywhere?
I am. I'm fully online in college. Yeah.
Nice. And what are you going to school for?
Major nursing and a minor in Spanish.
All right. Excellent. What made you choose nursing?
My high school had a healthcare pathway. It was like kind of like a STEM program.
Mhm.
And I did that for like 3 years. I learned all about healthcare, anatomy, ethics, jobs, and I really liked it. So I wanted to do something in healthcare.
Awesome. Well, given everything the last couple of years, the healthcare field needs more people in it, so that's a great
Yeah,
field for you to go into.
yeah, pretty much guaranteed with job security there.
Yes, yes, definitely. So you just said that even when it's not speed climbing season, you're still climbing. What does it look like for you? Now that's the off season. Are you taking some rest? What does your training kind of look like from the end of the season till when the season begins again?
I don't really know yet because it's like the first time I've had like this much of a gap.
Mhm.
Um, like this was my first full season, and even last season, like there was a gap, but there was like other things filling it. Like there was
Mhm.
nationals, there was Pan Ams, and other stuff. But this is like the biggest gap I've had yet, and I don't know what to do yet.
Gotcha.
I've
So
taken 2 weeks off. I did my first lap yesterday, just because I was psyched. But yeah,
yeah, nice. So do you self-coach or do you have a coach that works with you?
I have a coach that works with me, Alexei Shulga from Stone Summit. Yeah, he's the
Cool.
best.
Excellent. And then so are you working like even off season like daily like multiple practices per week, or is it more of like a check-in type system where you self-coach some days and then check in other days, or like what's that dynamic look like between you two?
So the dynamic is more, I was on the youth team with him, and so I would do the 3 to 4 practices a week with him and do that. And now that I'm not in youth anymore, I still am coached by him, but it's just like a little different. Like I'll do my solo practices and then I'll go train with him. And yeah, we just kind of collaborate a little bit.
Nice. Nice. So then I'm assuming then your coach is helping you through the season, then trying to, peak for the right meets, like with your training progression, everything like that. Since you said this was your first like full season that you've done, what was that like? How was that training experience throughout how long the season was?
It was pretty difficult, but also really exciting. It was hard being like 1 month like on like 2 or 3 comps and then 1 month off. And I think I was kind of like dreading that going into it, but I think after it's over, I kind of liked it because you did get little like kind of sections to train.
Hmm.
And so you had a little more ability to peak in like a cluster of comps.
Yeah. So with those competitions, which one was your favorite this year?
Ooh, I don't know. Probably Edinburgh.
I mean, when you set a national record like multiple times in the same competition, I mean, that's a pretty good competition. So
I was super.
was it just your races that made it your favorite, or the atmosphere, or
The atmosphere was super cool, and Scotland was amazing to be at. And yeah, the atmosphere was super cool. Very psyched to hit my first six. That was my first six, like in and out of practice. Like,
oh wow,
yeah,
yeah. So I knew
I
it
had
was
to
your
run
first six
six.
in competition, but I wasn't sure if you'd hit any in practice before.
I hadn't, no.
So why even hit a 6.9? Just go straight to 6.8. Like,
Yeah, I didn't want anyone questioning if I could do it or not.
it's a good plan. Just demolish it.
Yeah.
So with Scotland, I know that speed wall is very old. It's one of the first in competition, and it's also in a really unique place. So down at like that quarry. So what was that like for like atmosphere wise?
It was so cool. The first day was actually like pretty cold in there because you have like all the rock around it and it was rainy and it was
Hmm.
like pretty cool. But the second day was a bit warmer and I feel like the temperature and like in that kind of building rock place was nice. And then I like explored the kind of venue and went outside and saw like the actual like sport climbs in the quarry. And like I was doing my running, my warm up, I ended up on top of the building. Like it was just a really cool venue.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I know you just mentioned the weather there, so I know Edinburgh, it's Scotland. It's gonna be rainy, it's gonna be cold. Um, then a couple weeks later, you're in Jakarta, where it's like 90 plus with very tropical humidity. So,
Oh my gosh.
which of those do you prefer? What do you perform better under?
Well, at the beginning of the season after the Salt Lake World Cups, with the first one being like freezing and the second one being a bit boiling,
Hmm.
uh, I thought I was preferring like the heat. And then I went to Jakarta and I was like, this is miserable. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when I saw those temperatures plus like the humidity, I was like I'm a fan of the heat when I want to go fast, but like that humidity, if you're not used to it,
No.
it drains you.
And I thought I was used to it. Like, I live in Georgia, it is heat and
Oh,
humidity.
right.
But Jakarta is something else. And I think like the speed day while I was there, it was like the only day that it wasn't overcast. And so the sun was just like on us like the whole time. Like you're staging and you're just standing in the sun and you're just, it was it was a bit rough, but I'm very thankful for the experience.
Yeah, I looked at all the videos online from all the different teams that were there in Jakarta, like multiple days, multiple weeks before the competition. It looks like a really good training camp, really good just atmosphere to be around. How many days in advance did you get out there?
I think maybe 3 or 4. I honestly don't remember after all the travel.
Just kind of
I
all
think
blends
like
together.
it took like 3 days to get there.
That's
I
such a
think I
long
like
trip.
skipped, yeah, I like skipped Monday like all together. Like just the time zones, it was crazy.
So what's that like adapting to the different time zones? Like how jet lagged were you when you were competing?
I think by the time I was competing, I was fine, but I really just think on like it depends on where you go. I think Asia for me is like the hardest one. I remember in Seoul, like when I got there, I was waking up at like 5 or 6 a.m. like every day, but like I wasn't like too tired because it was just like how my body adjusted to it. I was
Hmm.
just up. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I I've never been a morning person. Like I have kids now, so like you
Not
have
either.
to be at that point, but like it's not by choice. So I'm not sure how well I'd adapt to that. Like when I used to have to travel for track, granted it was just across the US, but even like a 2, 3 hour like or 2 or 3 time zone difference, we were like traveling like the day before. So it's still like, oh, okay. Like
Hmm.
it feels 3 hours earlier than it should. So even that threw me off. So I can't imagine having to travel to Asia and then compete within 2 days. So, you know, good on you for still having good performances.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I know we just kind of talked about your Edinburgh races. Is that your favorite race of the year, or do you have a different race that would be your favorite?
Mm, I think probably just the Edinburgh races were my favorite.
Cool. And then along
Yeah.
with that, do you have a favorite person that you like to compete against? Like, uh, what was your best like favorite race against someone? Like who brings out the best in you?
I don't know. I think it depends on like the competition. Like my second World Cup ever, I raced Miroslav in the big final. And I was just like the whole time, I was just like, oh my God, it's Miroslav. She's right next to me. I get to race her. I was like fanboying the whole time. And that was like one of the best races with her. I was like with her like the whole time.
Mhm.
It was so exciting. I love racing her. She's so sweet.
Yeah, and it's
But
hard
yeah.
not to be hyped when you got someone like her in the lane next to you, and just
Hmm.
um. So I know that was a really close race, and then you had that super close race versus Kaluchka in your 684. Um, and does it feel different, like when you're racing someone who's as fast as there? Which I mean, you are obviously as fast as they are. You're in the 6.8s now. Um, what does that do for you mentally compared to if you're versus someone, that is fast? Obviously, they're in finals, they deserve to be there. But like mentally, how do you prepare yourself for those races compared to other races, or do you attack each race the same way?
I try to attack each race the same way. Like with speed climbing, like you have no prediction. You can't predict anything. They could all start, they could slip, like anything is possible. And so just trying to go and like just do your own lap is the most important thing because
Mhm.
you can't control them. So just
It's
trying to do your own lap and stay focused. Yeah. But it's
great
hard
mindset to
when
have.
especially yeah, it's hard though if like you're climbing and then you hear like a bang and like someone slips and you're just like it takes your tension away.
Right.
And then I think often when that happens, like you see the other person like do a little slip or a little like adjustment because they're distracted and they know they're winning, but just
Mhm.
trying to stay like in your own lane essentially.
Right. It's so difficult, like especially because then you've got the crowd. And if you can hear the crowd, if it's a big crowd, you hear a gasp, you hear anything, and then just knowing that you still have to hit, you still have to complete your lap in order to move on, because you don't know if it was only a small slip and now they're catching back up or anything, because it's not
Yeah.
like you have enough time to look over your shoulder while you're climbing to see where they are.
Yeah.
Um,
Personally, I don't know if I always hear the crowd.
okay.
Yeah, I think I like can hear it when I'm like setting up and I can only hear like specific people's voices. Like I can hear
Mhm.
like my coach's voice
Yeah.
like a lot, but I don't think I can always hear it when I'm like on the wall doing a race.
And then as soon as you slap the timer and everything kind of like snaps back in, you hear everything, you get to enjoy the moment.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm still just like, what just happened? You're trying to like evaluate the lap you just had. You're just like, oh, there was like a little adjustment there. It's just like, yeah.
Cool. So I kind of want to talk about the race with Kaluchka, just from talking about differences in beta. And so I know when you do your start, you go wider to the left with the
Yeah,
fourth
I still
hold.
do standard start. Yeah.
Yes. And now you're starting to see like Kaluchka and Miroslav, they are skipping that hold. They are going more linear route. But if you look at the race, you were still beating her through that, or at least even with her, it looked very close, like you were beating her through the start, through the first like 5, 10 holds. Explain, have you tried doing the other starting beta? Does it work for you, or like just kind of explain how you go about choosing, which beta works best for you?
I think I've been doing the my like standard start, especially
Mhm.
the like you go 1, 2, and then I throw 3, 4 same time. And a lot of like women, they'll if they still do standard, they match three and then go four. But
Mhm.
I've been doing, I think 3, 4 since my second season of speed, so like 5 years now. And even this year, I'm still just like learning. I was just like, oh, if I pull more here, like it's faster.
Yeah.
But then you have to like adjust, like, oh, like I need to just like lift this foot higher. There's just like little things I think I find each season that makes it be able to match like the Tomoa start.
Yeah.
And like I have tried Tomoa just like every now and then. I'm just like, oh, what if I did this? And that thing is hard. Props to all the people that do it because that thing is hard.
Well, and again, I mean, if you aren't any slower through the start by not doing the Tomoa, is there a need for you to do it right now? Doesn't seem like it, especially if you still have areas that you can improve on with the Emma standard, we'll call it, with your um. But then further through the race, are you practicing any other different beta? Is there anything on like top of your mind? You're like, maybe if I try this, like it's going to clean up XYZ portion of the race, or is that all like industry secret right now for the next season that you can't talk about?
Um, I don't know. I feel like I just did the one arm switch, the one arm dyno. I
Mhm.
switched that at the beginning of this season. So I'm feeling pretty good at that. And I think I just want to refine that a little more. Because
Sure.
every now and then I'm watching a video and I just kind of cringe looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, the legs just aren't supposed to bend like that. So I think just cleaning that up right now.
All right. Well, I mean, one of the things that I remember from your Edinburgh races were, given how cool it was, and from a So a little bit of my background is like my master's degree is in coaching. Like I've got
Hmm.
XYZ history regardless. But one of the things I did a paper on when I was in master's, when I was in my grad program, was about the effect of heat on like muscle velocity contraction. So like the warmer your body is, the faster your muscles contract. Like the nervous system just works better. So like that's why you see like in track and field, a warmer night, faster people, like the faster people are. But I also know that heat and humidity are going to affect texture of the holds, et cetera, in the wall different than it does in track. So, um, given how fast you went in Edinburgh with those conditions, like even though it wasn't as warm, do you feel like the wall conditions are better at those temperatures, or?
I don't really know. I think for me, I don't think too much about the texture and the stuff. I think
Mhm.
about like my actual like muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the first day of Edinburgh, I like in staging, like I was wearing like my puffy and I was pulling my sweatpants over like my harness. And for like finals, I would just maybe put on a jacket, but like I had my hand warmers. Like I wasn't too worried about staying warm because it was like pretty warm in there to begin with.
Mhm.
And I definitely prefer, I think, the heat, like the second Salt Lake World Cup. Like it just felt so nice. You don't have to worry about putting on your jacket in between races. And I think I kind of like the hot holds because your hands don't get cold. I think that sounds like silly to say, but like grabbing the whole like the cold holds, like your
Mhm.
fingers just kind of like crunch a little and it's so uncomfortable. And yeah.
And when your hands are cold and you're operating at those speeds and you slap a hold, you jam your finger, anything like that, that hurts way more when it's cold. Like,
Oh my gosh. I stubbed my toe like on the speed wall in the first Salt Lake World Cup and it was freezing and I oh my gosh, so much pain. Just
mhm.
like coming down. I'm like, ow, cold wind.
Yeah.
Oh, the wind affects it. I did
Okay.
not realize that when I started like outdoor comps, but
Yeah.
I have the audible in front of me and the wind, if it's going, it's just like going like this. And it's so weird.
Distracting. You have to like operate around it.
And, like every now and then I'm just like, whoa, like it'll whap me in the face. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, so that's good. Which comps did you experience the most wind at?
2021 VLARs was like the first time I had like a big like thing of wind and it
Mhm.
was so weird. I was just like doing my lap and I was like, what is happening? Like, is the audible really breaking? Like, I was like, yeah, so weird.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that's not something that most people think about as being a distraction while climbing is going to be the wind, how it affects the auto belay. But when you think about how rehearsed your beta is and how in the zone you are, that's like having an obstacle just like flapping in your face the entire time, distracting you. So,
Hmm. And I don't know if like a lot of speed climbers realize it because a bunch of them climb with it like around their shoulders.
mhm.
But for me, I just always had it in front of me. And every now and then I'm just like, why, what is happening? And you can't like always identify it at the moment because you're just like doing your lap. And then
Mhm.
you come down and you're like, oh my gosh, the audible was doing something.
So you just mentioned that you always have it in front of you, and you're right. You do see a lot of people like, tucking behind, and they have it in their back. Have you tried it that way? Is it just uncomfortable, just not what you're used to?
Yeah, I think it's so uncomfortable. And like when I started speed, we had like the ropes. And I think sometimes, like depending on your belayer and stuff, even if you did have it behind your arm, if like your belayer wasn't pulling fast enough, like it could still come around in front. And I just thought like having it in front of you is the best way to like kind of control it.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, so I kind of want to shift into the world record, and it, all world records, men's, women's, they just keep. And not only do they keep cratering, but you see the level of competition rising up around it and just bunching up, where you've got multiple people at every moment that are capable of attacking the world record. So where do you see the world record going if you care to throw a prediction, like in the next year or the next year or two leading up to the next Olympics?
I definitely see a four coming. I hope it's not 499. I want it to
That'd be
be
so
a
disappointing,
little
right?
fast. Yeah. But I think I don't know like the math or the science behind it, but I think maybe 4.8 for sure in the next season. Um, For women, I don't know. I feel like we can go close to five.
I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that. Because like look, I was in a little conversation online because that's always the most fruitful, which I don't know if you ever on Reddit or anything like that. Like just don't go there. Like it's just not great places to have conversations that have any fruit. But talking about women's world record, like I really think in the next 2 years it's going to go six flat or under. Just looking at the current progressions, how just like the development of the sport, you're all are kicking ass. And it's like every competition, you're seeing more and more people under seven and more people bunching up around that world record. And when you start seeing that world record get bunched up, that's when those breakthrough moments happen where you have best competition versus each other. They're all at that level. Someone's going to lower the bar or raise the bar. It's hard. It's a weird. That's a weird phrase when you're talking about lowering time.
Yeah. I definitely have gotten that, like talking about time, I've gotten it wrong. I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, like it's lower now. And it's like, wait.
Wait, yeah, they're raising the bar but lowering the time. So
Yeah.
confusing, but awesome. So let's talk about your races in particular. So we just talked about you race with it in front, not behind you. Do you have any other routines? Sam Watson kicks the wall every time. Uh, what does Emma do to prepare for the race and then just leading up to the race so that way you're in the zone?
So many things. I'm annoyingly superstitious. It's so annoying. And like I even know like if anyone's watching me, I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like I'm just doing my thing. Um like I think for me it starts way before like I even walk like to the wall. Like it starts in like the staging tent, like cleaning my shoes with like the tension shoe spray. Love that stuff. Clean my shoes and then pop in my headphones. I play like same like two songs over and over again. And like put, putting my shoes on like a certain amount of people before me and then switching the songs because I need a particular part. Like and then walking out to the wall. Let's see. I have like a certain way I set up my paddle. Like everyone does it differently.
Mhm.
Mine's a little aggressive. I make like a little mark on the floor with my shoe rubber. And I started doing that because the lasers, and like we did the lasers in the US, and I needed to know like where I wanted the laser.
Mm.
But with IFSC, it doesn't matter because it's always pressure and it's like a giant square.
Right.
Um, but like I make the mark, set it up, come back, and then I have like a routine talking to myself.
All right.
Yeah.
Just a little like just like talking yourself up. Like is it like if it's private, you don't have to share it. Like but I mean like I know like when I would compete, like I was very similar to you, where it's like, okay, there's this many people in front of me. I'm at this point in my warm up, this point my shoes on, this song is on, I'm doing X, Y, Z. To me, that brought me comfort just knowing that regardless of what competition I was at, like
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
could control that portion of it at least.
Hmm.
Now sometimes if there was a delay or anything like that, it would kind of throw you off, and but like for the most part, it brought me comfort and routine. But I'd always be getting ready for getting into the blocks, etc. And I'd have an angry song in my head and I'd be like saying lyrics to the song. Like it looked like I was getting ready to like murder someone when I was going to race. But it was my routine. So I fully get that. That's definitely understandable from someone else that saw a race before. But just a little bit like like self-talk, self-prep, little like advocacy, like I am going to do this type of talk or
Just like a little more like last minute checks.
okay.
Yeah. It's that part's like a little more private because
Yeah.
it's definitely like changed over the years. But and like each comp it can like kind of be different, like not trying to be tied to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought what was interesting, you were saying like you have your routine, and then if you have like a delay, it can mess it up. And before, like I've always felt that way. And then in Edinburgh, I had a delay right before my first six.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the girls on the like race before me, like something was wrong with the wall. I don't know. I never actually found out. I think there was like actually something on the hold, and they had to
Was
like
that
go climb up and get
was that the
it.
Edinburgh one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a screw coming out of one of the holes. It was like partly removed, and they had to take one of the screws out because it was sticking out.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I was like the next race and I didn't know what was happening and like no one was telling me what was happening and just trying not to like lose your shit in that moment is just so hard.
I bet, because that was a quite a few minute delay.
Yeah, and like no one like on like the staging end knew what was going on. I was just like, "Hey, like can I take my shoes off?" Like like do I what do I have time to do? And it's so hard just not to go crazy. And especially I was like, "Oh, like that's my lane. Like something's wrong with my lane."
Right.
Like what's gonna happen?
Well, thankfully they fixed it because like it was kind of sticking out a little bit, like where you could see it. Like not great. So good thing they fixed it.
Yeah, very thankful she pointed that out.
Yes, yes. Okay. Um, so we actually went over a whole bunch of this already. So, you talked about your routine, putting on your shoes. Tell me a little bit more about your shoes.
Oh my gosh, I love my shoes so much. I worked with my coach Alexi and then Aval, and we like they custom made my shoes. And we changed like the midsole, the toe, and then we've added like a super rand on top, and like the toe rubber is softer so I can feel a bit more of the holds, but then like the midsole is stiffer so like I don't have like too much flex in the shoe.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, I love them so much.
Nice. So, when are you going to start? When are those going to hit the market as like as the Emma Hunt speed shoe? So, like, or those just like those are yours. No one's going to get those.
I think at the moment they're just mine, but
Good. Keep it that way.
I know a couple of other Evolve athletes, like they've gotten the extra like toe rubber on top, which is amazing because some shoes have like a like kind of a lower lip where the rubber stops. And if you drag your foot, you can like burn through
Mhm.
and then your toe's sticking out. And I had a problem where my toe was sticking out and then I would drag my toe and then my toe would bleed. And then, yeah, just adding the rubber just made so much of a difference.
Yeah, so it's funny because the one thing Albert Oak and I were talking about, where at some competitions you see people chalking their shoes, and like you'll see like one of the comments that they're like the commentary people were talking about, like, huh, they're chalking their shoes. That's a interesting tactic right there. But talking with Albert, looking at it, like they look like they're chalking like the top of their foot to prevent it. Like our thought was to prevent against like that friction from the toe drag going up. So thoughts on that?
I don't like the idea of putting chalk on my shoes. I think, I don't know. I think chalk is for your hands. I think if you put chalk in your shoes, you're going to slip.
Yeah. So like it looks like
Um,
it was like just on the top, but I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if there's going to be a market when they start developing more and more speed shoes for like almost like a dual text rubber, where that rubber up there is going to be like on the top of the toe is going to be less frictiony and more just there as like a protective, so that way as like with yours to prevent that toe burn as you drag your foot up the wall in some parts.
I think that would be really cool because I think there's just a bunch of spots where you're trying to stay so close to the wall and just move so fast that your feet they just drag. It's not
Hmm.
like a bad technique thing or anything. It's just like you're trying to stay as close and as fast and your toes are dragging.
Right.
Yeah. So I
Well,
think more speed shoes on the market and
yes.
adding more rubber so we don't burn holes through our toes.
Yes. More
Because
shoes, more merch, more anything having to do with speed. Yes, definitely. Um, so then did your are you shoe sponsored then?
yes.
Okay. So tell me again who the sponsor is so that way everyone out there can hear it. And then do you have like a sponsor link where like if people buy through there you get like additional sponsor revenue or anything or
I honestly don't know. I think I do. I don't know what it is.
okay.
Yeah, I should know that. I'll figure it out. But it's Evolve. Yeah,
Okay.
best shoes.
Perfect. I know you're also sponsored by True Blue. You've got the shirt on right now, so
Yes.
excellent.
Best automobiles. I love them so much.
Yeah. I remember when the Speed Auto Blaze first came out, or rather when gyms didn't have them, but they just had regular Auto Blaze for speed routes, and you get like 3 or 4 moves in, and there's like this much slack, Yeah.
Yeah, you're like stepping on the lanyard.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then you mess up and you somehow take a whip around the speed wall because there's that much slack.
yeah.
Hmm.
Definitely a little bit used to the whippers on the speed wall. Growing up on like the team, like it's just a youth team, like it's just a bunch of youth kids like belaying each other and there's always mistakes. Like I think my first speed practice ever, I almost killed someone just because like I didn't pull fast enough there. And I've definitely just like glided from the top to the bottom of the ground and just like hit the ground. Like it's so funny. I'm so thankful we have autoplays.
Not a full deck, but close enough.
Like it had some speed.
Oh, well, yes. Thank you for True Blue for making speed climbing more accessible to everyone so that we don't have to put our lives in the hands of people that you might not want them in.
Yeah.
All right. So I know I had one thing in here, like wanted to ask you if there's any topics that are important to you, anything that, don't involve speed climbing that you want to shine a light on. Anything
I don't know. Speed climbers are still climbers.
say it louder for everyone in the back, and especially everyone around here. That is the
Yeah.
biggest fight that like I'm so tired of.
Oh yeah, me too. I've had it forever, especially like with the combined stuff.
I'm sure.
Like, so I would always like, even if I like sent a boulder, they'd be like, "Oh, the speed climber did the boulder." You
Must be
don't have
soft when
to
speed climbers doing it.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah. It's aggravating. It reminds me again, like way too full of track analogies, but if anyone's ever was a sprinter, like the way sprinters and cross country runners kind of work, like operate with each other. There's like this big rift where it's like cross country runners are like you barely even run. Like what you do isn't even running basically. And because they go out for trail runs and etc. I'm like that's great, perfect. You enjoy your sport, but like it doesn't discredit anything that my sport is. And that's my biggest thing with speed climbing is yes, it's just not lead climbing. It's not bouldering. It's its own thing. It sits on its own merits. So that's the biggest thing that I want to you know continue to help advocate for is the fact that speed athletes are athletes of their own merits, just as equally impressive or more than bouldering and lead athletes as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's like one superior discipline in climbing. Just we're
No.
all climbing. Like you do what you like, and I fully get it that there are people that don't like speed climbing,
Hmm.
and like I will often say like I don't like lead climbing, but like
Yeah,
everyone has their preferences. So
100%. And it's good that everyone can have their own preference because if you look at just the way that people are, there's going to be people that are more speed power oriented. There's going to be people that are more endurance, and there's going to be people that fall in the middle. And this is now makes climbing accessible across the spectrum where people can climb in areas of their strengths, which I'm always for. You should do something that you enjoy that you can be good at.
hmm And like even when I would lead climb, like I was still a kid, like sprinting up the lead wall because I had like no endurance, and building
Mhm.
endurance was just naturally harder for me.
Yeah, like breathe, rest. I'm like, no, finish.
Yeah, I'm like resting is getting me more pumped. Like we need to
Mhm.
move it on. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um, we got through a lot of this really quickly. It's only been like 35 minutes.
All
But
right.
man, you gave everything. It was great. Is there anything that in particular that we didn't talk about that you want to mention?
I can't think of too much more. Just yeah, speed's cool. Superstitions are helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. How about you drop your socials so that way people know how to find you if for some reason they're watching this and don't follow you?
I don't blame them. I don't have too much content. It's just really speed climbing and then my dogs. And every now something I bake. So
Well, Well, I've seen two
Um,
dogs so far in your video. So before we get to your socials, what are your dogs' names and what type of dogs are they?
I have two dogs and a cat. I have a border collie. His name is Flynn. And then I have a puppy, an Aussie. Her name is Kimmy. And then I have a cat who can be a butthole, but I love her so much. It's the cat way. She's like right here.
And what's the
Yeah.
cat's name?
Her name is Nala. Oh, she ran away from me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Always happy to have. I really feel like that if you're not a pet owner, that like I'm not sure I can trust you. So, um,
Well, I watched your podcast with John, and you said if you don't drink coffee, you're like a psychopath, and I don't drink coffee.
to be fair, I think I predicated that with like once you're in like college and past. So like,
I
I
am
mean,
in college.
that's true, but you're online, so I'm not sure like if it's the same thing as having
I
to wake up
have
for. Is it
I have
asynchronous or
gone
is it
in person.
okay?
I have. I did hybrid my first semester, and I hated it.
Um, okay.
My
You don't
classes were
drink any
also
coffee or any
later in the
caffeine?
day, so I have like caffeine, like BCAAs or pre-workout or whatever that
Okay.
stuff is, but I
But you
don't
don't like
drink
live off
just
of
like
coffee that like
yeah.
okay. Well, I won't hold that against you. Don't start because once you do, it's just like a
That's what I've heard.
yeah. It's like, oh, I'm not addicted, and then it's like I don't have my coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, cool. I interrupted you when you were dropping your socials.
Oh, it's Instagram at climbing_Emma, and that
Perfect.
is it.
All right. So it's been great having you on. We look forward to everything that you do in the 2023 season. As those
Thank you.
competitions get started, I hope to have you on again maybe beforehand so we could talk about how preseason prep's been going. But otherwise, congratulations on a great season and new American records multiple times. And just look forward to seeing even more from you the next year.
Thank you. I'm very excited. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for
Thanks for coming
having
on.
me.